So
yeah, I did. I asked if they should be allowed to be in government. Should they be allowed to be in government? You can reframe the answer. Should pedophiles be allowed to be in government?
No.
No. Okay. Well, then you're just only applying the law when you choose to apply the law. Thank you. It wouldn't be that. Well, there's no true utilitarian, right? That wouldn't make any sense. It's not a no true Scotsman fallacy. He doesn't know what he's talking about. There was a whole bunch of times, in fact, like you should stick with science, man. Maybe philosophy is not your jam, but ultimately on this, yeah, you got wrecked pretty bad.
Andrew, do you feel bad for your opponent after nights like this?
Nope, they deserve it.
All right, good guys.
Andrew, let me know when you're ready, and I'll start the timer.
Yeah, I have 10 minutes, correct?
Yes, sir. Are you ready?
Yeah, go ahead.
Cool. You have 10 minutes starting now.
I would like to remark in my opening statement that Mr. Peterson made a very long hit piece about yours truly called Andrew Wilson is a Moron. Very good framing on that, by the way. In it, he claims I misrepresented and gave bad arguments against secular humanism and Craig FTFE. When offered the same debate with the same prompts so he could prove it, our good friend Mr. Peterson did decline. I just want to point that out. Instead, demanding that we do a debate where I needed to, quote, convince him Christianity needed to be in government. When I said that was fine, if I could do the same thing to him in secularism, he also declined. He also, strangely enough, told his audience some false things, and I just want to clear those up very quickly. Mr. Peterson didn't demand this format of debate, so I couldn't evade questions. Rather, we are doing the format that Taco himself does every single debate I have seen him host, and the same format that Taco requested to begin with. So I have no idea why Mr. Peterson made that up, but he did. Perhaps to sound like he got me in some kind of format I'm not used to, but he's going to find out better tonight. Now, to the debate itself, Mr. Peterson has the affirmative that Christianity shouldn't be in government. He qualified American government, which I agreed to. He just went over that himself. I'm completely uninterested in any tangential debate that Mr. Peterson actually wants to have, which is just God isn't real, though, which means nothing in this debate. To start with, I'd like to bring up the country most libs point to as the happiest in the world, Finland. In the happiest country in the world, there exist 2 state churches. Yes, that's right, 2. Both of these bodies have the ability to levy taxes. The tax is paid by members of the 2 churches and the rates determined on the parish level. While the government collects the taxes, the 2 churches pay for the cost of collecting them and receive the amounts paid. These go to fund the maintenance, repair of churches and public services such as record keeping, funeral services, and many others. We would call this a form of symphonia in Orthodoxy. The idea of the church working hand in hand with the state, represented by a 2-headed eagle. Now, here in the USA, you can imagine that the government levying a tax at the behest of the church and then collecting it along with normal income taxes would be something Mr. Peterson wouldn't like very much. It's an example of the church and government working just fine. But wait, there's more. Since these are 2 different churches, one, the Orthodox Church, the other, a Lutheran church, you would think there would be significant social problems. He brought this up in his opening. Quite the contrary. That's odd considering their dogmas and doctrines are so removed from each other, isn't it? Yet, by all accounts, these 2 bodies, while they engage in rigorous debate, generally work hand in hand towards the general good and welfare of the peoples of their nation. Mr. Peterson will claim in this debate that there are so many different denominations of religions. How did I predict that? How could we possibly choose which one would represent us? Yet, all of those denominations exist in Finland, and they're doing fine. The happiest people on earth, supposedly. Yet, they have Buddhism, Hindus, Jews, Catholics, Anglicans, Islamics, all under the same roof of a nation, with 2 denominations being officially recognized as state churches, and those churches having a say in actual policy making. This should be some kind of nightmare for Mr. Peterson, but it seems to work so good that they're the happiest people in the world. Go figure. Now to U.S. policy, try to understand that our nation itself isn't divorced from religion any more than Finland, and never has been. There's simply an establishment clause saying the federal government can't favor one religion over another or prohibit the free exercise of it. Interestingly, they still can. One way is they simply don't recognize a religion as valid, and they do this by not recognizing the church as legitimate and not recognizing them as a church and giving them the same status as other churches. Which, by the way, they do all the time. The IRS has official rules for what a church is. In fact, it includes creeds, forms of worship. It's super extensive. Now to the arguments themselves for Christianity being in government. One, the early history of the United States is one that tells a different story than modern secularists would have you believe, like Mr. Peterson. The founders in shaping this constitutional republic referenced Deuteronomy more than any other philosophy. This study was cited by the American Political Science Review and is noted by the C.S. Lewis Institute, who remarked this. This is also a book that records God's dealings with the chosen nation, especially in establishing the political and legal institutions necessary to govern a nation. Now, we can find text in the New Testament that deals with government, think Romans 13, for example, and it gives us a sense of the duties of citizenship and the like. But what we find in the book of Moses and in that condensed version of Deuteronomy is the nuts and bolts of how do you make the establishment of a nation. This is direct proof, by the way, end quote. This is direct proof the Bible was indeed used heavily to determine government structure itself. My second argument is that most states that are founding already had state religions, and that you had to swear oaths to Christianity to even hold office. The Constitution was ratified 1788, and there were still states with official state religions, which makes it laughable that under the 10th Amendment, they didn't allow states to have state religions, because they clearly did. Our founders were fully aware of this fact, stating the Constitution was for a moral and religious public. Quote, our Constitution was made only for a moral and religious people. It is wholly inadequate to the government of any other. John Adams. Adams is talking about men who believe like Mr. Peterson, by the way. 9 of these states required a sworn oath that Jesus Christ is Lord, in fact. There didn't seem to be very much confusion. My third argument is that the entire United States is already run like a religious institution. Men with ceremonial black robes who sit on high pedestals judge the people on judging days. Other men in black ceremonial robes give and interpret the law. We have national anthems, the etymology of which are liturgical hymns. We have dogmatic beliefs in every sense of the word. Dogmas around patriotism, American exceptionalism, a strict adherence to the concept of rights, an invisible metaphysical concept, which isn't true, but we put faith in it anyway. We persecute heretics. We call them communists and socialists and people who, quote, want to destroy our way of life. Anybody who goes against the law of the land is interpreted by the lawgivers and the law interpreters in the black robes, and they will be persecuted for it. Things like rights and other dogmas are forced on the population as a way in which they must live their life, as a sense of normative claims. Our politicians take oaths of office, often given on the Bible itself, but the fact they are giving oaths at all infers there will be some kind of divine intervention to that oath breaker. They give oaths of office just like they used to. I would argue the entire system is religious and dogmatic in its very nature, and Peterson will have to explain why those dogmas are incompatible with Christianity, or reject it, or in any way wouldn't be made better by it. My fourth argument is that blind justice makes no sense. It makes no sense absent the Christian view. This concept is uniquely biblical. Neither rich nor poor judge them the same. In a non-Christian view, there isn't really any reason at all for justice to be meted out the way we mete it out. An eye for an eye or serious punishment is just as reasoned for justice as forgiveness and rehabilitation. Why can't a rapist be castrated or graped himself for the crime of grape? Why not murder the murderer? This is every bit in conformance to reason as the current justice code, except the current one still relies on Christian ethics. I have 6 more arguments after this, but I think that that's probably as much as I can fit in for my opening. But let me address a couple things before we get to the cross-examination. I agree with Mr. Peterson. He can't get an off from an is, but then he makes this really bizarre claim. He said, Peterson says, I'm at the mercy of a should claim, but he's at the mercy of a shouldn't claim, which is also an ought claim. I don't know if he knows this or not. When you say you should not do thing, that's also an ought claim, just like saying you should do a thing. So saying we should not have Christianity in government is making a normative claim. It's literally making an ought claim. So I don't know what the fuck he's talking about there, but we can get into it. What can you do when you can't criticize Islam, he says, or Christianize Islam or Christianize these people? What do they do in Finland, where all of these different denominations live together and there's 2 state religions? Well, what happens is the 10th Amendment goes into effect, and it's up to the ethics of the population to put in the religion that they choose. Also, he says Christian ethics are barred from government, and that's actually kind of just counterintuitive and stupid. If you vote your conscience and you're Christian, that's Christian ethics. Just like that, that's Christian ethics. If you're a politician and you're voting based on your normative ethical framework and you're a Christian, you're going to be voting against abortion bills, you're going to be voting against tax bills, you're going to be voting for all sorts of different things, which are going to rely heavily on your actual ethical framework, which is Christianity. It's already there. It's already there. And does he want to get rid of it? No. What he'll say instead is, no, I'm fine if Christians utilize the Constitution by voting in other Christians who can then amend the Constitution. So it's like, he can't even tell me that they shouldn't be there. He'll actually have to say that they should. And with that, I'll cede my time. We can get into the cross-examination.
There's this guy, Pastor Anderson. He's a real piece of shit. He says, look, the Bible clearly says that homosexuals need to be put to death, and the United States government should do it. So I'm sure that Andrew Wilson disagrees with all of that, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so were they wrong?
And well, what you're using is called a genetic fallacy. So you're trying to attack the position based on the source of the particulars. So this is actually what you're making is a fallacious argument. If you were just asking me,
so.
if you're can you just very quickly, and again, you can reclaim your time, but can you just pull up a genetic fallacy and then tell us what it says?
Just from memory, my understanding of a genetic fallacy is because things occurred, like historically, this is what occurred, then therefore it was good or justified that those things occurred.
It's a logical fallacy where someone rejects or accepts an argument based solely on its origin or source. And so the thing is that the origin and source, and in this particular case, you're saying, wait a second, look at these particulars, and these particular people did bad things, and so therefore Christian ethics itself is in question. That seems silly. It's not actually attacking Christian ethics. You're just attacking bad things a person did and then saying somehow this relates to Christian ethics. That is quintessentially a genetic fallacy for sure. Now, if you put it in question form, I can still accept it, and I'll still answer to the question, even accepting the genetic fallacy, which is like, so what? There's laws in Kentucky that I believe you can't shoot rabbits from a trolley cart. I disagree with that law too. I think it's pretty stupid. For one thing, I want to shoot rabbits. I want to shoot rabbits from a trolley cart. That's one. But the other thing is that I would not, if I were to say to you, secular ethics were bad. Now, if I were to say they were bad because I can't shoot rabbits from a trolley cart, and you disagree, therefore secular ethics bad, you would reject that, right? And rightfully so. But anyway, if you're ready for the cross-examination, I am too.
So we'll be moving into your cross-exam now. It'll be 30 minutes as well. If obviously, feel free to reclaim your time. If something's going on, you can ask questions and get back on topic. Let me know when you're ready, and I'll go ahead and start your timer. And once again, try to answer the questions directly and concisely.
Yeah, I think that's fine. I'm ready when you are, Mr. Peterson.
Perfect.
So I hope I answered your question satisfactorily as I think I could. I hope you do the same for me. So starting with this, do you have any problems with Christians being in government?
No, to the extent that a Christian holds, like, so they're because it's not should Christians be in government. It's Christianity.
I know. Just so none of these are going to be loaded, and none of these are going to be gotchas. I just want to make sure that I'm clarifying a couple things. First and foremost, just yes or no. Do you have any problems with Christians being in government?
No, because to the extent that a Christian holds beliefs and they act on them and whatever those beliefs are, to the extent that those beliefs overlap with the limits of government put in the Constitution, that's not a problem. I don't think it's a contradiction.
And inside of the Constitution, what can you explain very quickly what the process is for an amendment?
You need, I don't remember the specific numbers. You need 3/4 of the states to ratify it. As far as Congress, I don't know if it's 2/3 or what.
Yeah. So there's multiple ways to make an amendment.
It has to be ratified by the states for it to count. Because we famously had this recently. There's something Joe Biden was trying to get in there, some equal protections thing. And
you think 3/4 of the state came together for every amendment in the Constitution, really?
I mean, historically, like, weird things have happened. There didn't used to be primaries 100 years ago, but now we do have them.
Yeah. So anyway, so back to this. By the way, that's just factually inaccurate. But the thing is like, that aside, we'll just leave that aside for a second. Let me just ask you, and I'm reclaiming my time on this. I'm kidding. Let me just ask you this. If Christians then, if you have no problem with them being in office, if there was such an overflow of the numbers, because that was the representation that people wanted, they voted in Christians and they made an amendment to, like, I don't know, get rid of the First Amendment, which they're completely well within their rights to do. What's the problem with that?
So our Constitution has a system where you can amend amendments, the 21st or 2nd, whatever, undid prohibition.
Well, no, you can just undo amendments altogether.
Yeah, with amendments. But
yeah,
I mean, I think the problem with this is That wouldn't be. If you amend the First Amendment, then I can just say, well, then we can just re-amend it because it was wrong of them to amend it in the first place. So
Sure. Yeah, you could re-amend it after you get power back. But if Christians actually have power, what is your actual argument against them amending the First Amendment, which is prescribed in the Constitution that they can do?
I don't have an argument that they can't do it. The First Amendment says that is something that can be done.
Should they not be able to do that?
Well, it's kind of weird because we have an establishment clause. So if they did that,
well, yeah, I mean, but we used to have a slavery clause, right?
Then it would be.
But hang on, Mr. Peterson, we used to have a slavery clause, right? And we amended that.
You used to have a slavery clause?
Yeah, we used to be able to own slaves. That was yes.
That's not a. No, the first. None of the first 12 amendments said you can own slaves.
Okay.
That's completely false.
I'm sorry. Hang on. Back up. Hang on. Stop. It's not your cross-examination here. Okay. Just so that you know, though, you do realize that there were state constitutions which said you can own slaves, right?
Before secession happened?
Mm-hmm.
It specifically said that they could own slaves? Okay.
Yeah, specifically. And also, you do realize there was a 3/5 clause, right?
Yeah, black people counted as 3/5 of a person.
So all those things need to be amended, right?
Well, if the Constitution gets changed, then that becomes federal law, and then it supersedes the state Constitution.
Right. So at the federal level, if Christians went ahead and amended the First Amendment, what's the problem?
Well, I think it would be wrong because I think that's a violation of what the First Amendment says.
Yeah, but wait, that's circular. The Constitution is set up so that we can amend amendments, yes or no?
Yeah.
So if it is the case that it's set up for us to do that, if Christians have power and you have no problem with Christians having power and they amend that amendment, what's the problem?
Because the framers of the Constitution set up the ability to amend the Constitution with respect to being able to produce a more better union, or however they say it.
Yeah, but who are you to determine what's better? Who are you to determine that? Wouldn't it be the people who are elected? You want people to be elected by their constituency, yes or no?
Well, yeah.
Okay, and if the people who are elected by their constituency are Christians, you have no problem with that, yes or no?
No.
So then if those people who are elected by their constituency want to amend the First Amendment, that is the process that you want to be allowed to happen, right?
No, because you didn't let me. You didn't let me finish my answer.
Okay, go ahead.
Right, because the framers of the Constitution, they built that system, and there are people that said we don't want a Bill of Rights. That was the first election. One of the biggest issues up for that, because we didn't have a Bill of Rights at first. But they did that in order to. They thought that was their way that in the future they'd be able to keep having a more functional, a better union, a better constitution, a better government. But they initially said no state government, because that will.
I don't know. So that's very undemocratic.
So it would be in violation.
Mr. Peterson, that's undemocratic. Do you agree with me that that's not democratic? For you to say that we cannot change the First Amendment by democratic means, that's actually undemocratic, correct?
No, I don't think so.
Well, I don't understand. Is the capacity there for us to do it? Is it written into the Constitution that we can do this? And you don't have a problem with Christians being elected by their constituency?
No.
So what is your actual problem with Christians changing this if it's within the very system that you want them to change it in? Literally, your system is, I want to elect person goes in, representing the constituency, all these people get together and they amend the First Amendment. That is the system that you want, right?
I don't want them to. The idea that amendments can be made means that I have to accept that the First Amendment should be amended. Is not a real case.
No. You don't have the should. You have the shouldn't. I want to know why it is that Christians shouldn't do that, other than because you don't like it.
Because, well, it'd be a violation of the spirit of the purpose of a constitutional.
It doesn't sound like it. It sounds like the purpose of a constitution. No, it doesn't sound like it. Well, hang on. How would it violate the purpose of a constitutional republic if this is the framework of the constitutional republic, sir?
Because a government is supposed to outline a constitutional republic sets limitations, and like there are other things that like it allows.
Yes,
for,
I agree.
whatever,
The constitutional
that
republic
makes
sets limitations, and in these limitations, it says that you can amend the First Amendment. Yes or no?
Yeah, but
So
you're
this
not
is the
supposed to
system you
amend it
want, dude.
to trash. No, because you're not supposed to make amendments to make the system dysfunctional. It's like saying, "Hey, I own an engine, right?
What would be? Hang on,
and
hang
I want to win the
hang on,
Daytona
wait a second.
500, right?
What would be dysfunctional?
Okay, well, I'm gonna bunch of
Why would that
dump a
be
bunch of nails
dysfunctional?
into my engine.
Wait, stop,
You're not going to win the Daytona 500.
What makes
you
that?
Can't tell me I can't.
I'm going to reclaim my
This is
time.
silly.
What makes
Yeah,
that what makes that dysfunctional? What makes it dysfunctional if they got rid of the First Amendment when we have countries, by the way, which I just cited in my opening, that don't have this separation. In fact, England, they have a state church as well. Many European nations have state churches. What actually would make the nation dysfunctional? It seems like it would function just fine. The states could then ratify amendments of their own for their own state religions. They can do that. They practically do now, like Utah. Utah is basically Mormon. Whether you like it or not, it basically is. What would actually make it dysfunctional?
So, like, you can cherry pick those countries if you want, but we have studies. High religiosity and societal dysfunction in the United States during the first decade of the 21st century.
Oh, okay. So then should we select for? Should we? Okay, bro, back up.
And I have a global study.
I only have so much time. I agree with you. You have studies, right, that say that religiosity makes you dysfunctional. How come you don't quote the studies that say high IQ make you dysfunctional? Should we start selecting for people who have a high IQ because it makes them more dysfunctional? Because it does. The higher your IQ, the more dysfunctional you get. You want studies on it? I have them in the boatloads. That's why you see people who have all sorts of issues when it comes to social behavior. The higher their IQ is, makes you totally dysfunctional. Do you want to outlaw that? No high IQ people in office?
You mean low IQ people?
No, high IQ makes you dysfunctional. High. Yeah,
Oh,
you have a
that's
really
bizarre.
really. Is it bizarre? The suicidality goes up. There's tons of reasons you become dysfunctional. Yes. Do you want studies? I'll give them to you happily. If you have a really high IQ, you actually become more socially dysfunctional. That is the case. Why do you think they commit suicide at such high rates? Not only that, but hang on, it's my turn, bro. My turn.
I know, but you kind of asked me.
Yeah, and hang on.
It's your time.
I'm just very quickly. I'm just going to go through this. You can't actually explain how the nation itself would become dysfunctional because we amended the First Amendment, because the constituency sent up Christians and they did that. You have to tell me how that would actually make the nation dysfunctional.
If you're asking me to tell you what if this happened, what would specifically be the next thing, and then the next thing, and then the next thing that would happen? I mean, I can't tell you a story of something that hasn't happened, which is why we refer to studies.
You just can't back your claim up.
No, I have studies that
you have studies that say that
high religiosity. Well, I mean, Andrew, you know that the Bible Belt is also the teen pregnancy belt, the STD belt.
My turn, bro.
Well,
my turn.
It wasn't really.
Not only that, let's just point out that also secularism has trouble with reproduction. Don't you think that it's dysfunctional if you're not reproducing? That's one. And two, you still have not demonstrated. Don't address it. I'm making a statement. It's my cross-examination. You have not demonstrated how the nation would become dysfunctional because people used your system, the one that you want, to make amendments, like if the system says you can, based on their religiosity, to get rid of the First Amendment. You have not demonstrated that would make the system dysfunctional, only claimed it, demonstrated.
So I'll talk about the low birth rates and then I'll do that.
No, I don't want to hear about low birth rates. It wasn't a question I asked. It was a statement I made. Answer the question I asked you.
That seems
Answer the
unfair.
question I asked you.
But you brought it up, and
answer the question
I feel I need to
asked
address
you.
it.
You can address it when you get back to your time for open debate. This is my cross-examination. Please answer the question I asked.
Okay. The second thing. Sorry, what was the second thing?
Yeah, I will just do this very quickly. Okay, just so that you very quickly. I got to reclaim my time. Yeah. So, the question I'm asking you, you need to be you. I mean, you have to demonstrate that it would actually be dysfunctional. That's your claim. I don't want to hear about demonstrations that religiosity can lead some people to become more dysfunctional. I would need to know how the nation itself is going to become dysfunctional because you get rid of the part in the First Amendment that says that Congress has to respect every establishment of religion. I need to know how does that make the nation actually dysfunctional to get rid of the Establishment Clause?
the studies I was referring to, they weren't talking about like it wasn't about individuals. It's about the country as a whole. One does it by state basis. The other does it was a more national study. But for example, I mean, I can prove that even according to you, there seems like some pretty damning information, because I'm pretty sure that you're not in favor of STDs, teen pregnancies, suicide, low life
You haven't
expectancy.
shown how
and
any of those
homicide.
things. You haven't shown how any of those
I'm in
things
the
would
process of
suddenly
it.
go boom because
in
you
the
got rid of
process
the
of it.
establishment clause. Like, for instance,
I'm in
I'll
the
explain.
process of
I'll
it.
explain the contradiction. I'll explain the contradiction in terms real quick. Even if it were the case that right this second, okay, religious people, it was correlated with teen pregnancy and all of these different things. These people are free to exercise that religion now. So wouldn't it be the case if they weren't free to exercise that would actually lower those rates?
I don't know what that could possibly have been an argument for, because what you find is all those things I brought up are highest among the most religious states. So the more religious you are, the more in this country, the more teen pregnancy you have.
Yes, but if
the more
Congress
people
doesn't
get
have to
STDs.
respect the establishment of religion anymore, right? They can say that you can't practice unhealthy religions, can't they?
What?
Answer my question. Couldn't they say
That
that?
didn't make any sense.
What didn't make any sense? Do you want me to ask the question again? If Congress did not have to respect the establishment of religion anymore, then unhealthy religions, right, or religions they deem to be unhealthy
You're
for the
advocating
nation.
for banning
I
Christianity.
didn't advocate for anything. When did I make
Yes,
any
you did.
advocation for anything ever?
Just
I'm
now?
asking when. When was that an advocation? I'm asking you simple questions about your worldview. Do you know what the difference is?
Yes, I do.
So great. So then, where was there ever an advocacy for X from me?
Okay,
Nowhere.
my
You
apologies.
fucking made
But
it
what
up. So that aside, I'm going to ask you again. If it were the case that the establishment clause was gone, couldn't Congress then not respect religions which were unhealthy for this society? Can you answer my question, dude?
It's such a bizarre question that doesn't make any sense, because
Oh my God, what
the
is
establishment
bizarre?
clause doesn't ban religions. It says that Congress will not make a state religion. It doesn't say that Congress doesn't have the ability to ban religion. It says that Congress will not impose religious law onto the population.
It says the free exercise thereof. You are wrong, sir. So yes, if you got rid of the establishment clause, the free exercise thereof would be gone. So
no, the establishment clause is not the same thing as you are allowed to practice your religion.
Yes, it is. It says the free exercise thereof. I'll read it for you, sir. Here, we'll read it. Because apparently you don't even know what it says. Okay. Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof. Do you understand? The free exercise thereof. So if you got rid of that, they could prohibit the free exercise thereof, correct?
Sure. So we would
get rid of Christianity. Oh, wow, you just answered a fucking question.
In this
Can we get you a medal for actually answering the question? So yes, it is indeed the case.
Calm down.
It is indeed. Well, dude, I have to pull the answers out of you because you don't want to answer them. This is what I was talking about by bad faith. So real quick, it's bad faith. Just answer the questions, dude. So then it is the case that if Congress then no longer had to respect the free exercise of religion, they could actually go through and stop the bad behaviors of bad religions, couldn't they?
Yeah, which would be Christianity.
Okay, so do you think that there's any other religions in the United States which are worse than Christianity?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, so then if Christians were in power and stopped the free exercise thereof of those religions, wouldn't that be good?
No, I don't think that would be good.
Oh, okay, so then when you say shouldn't, Christians shouldn't be in power, right?
Never said that.
That's your whole claim. Your whole claim is that Christianity shouldn't be in government.
And you completely changed it by saying Christians shouldn't be in power.
We're saying the same thing.
Shouldn't be in power.
You think?
No, we're absolutely not.
What's the semantic distinction?
Because what you're talking about, Christians shouldn't be in government, means banning people that practice a certain religion from serving in government. I don't believe in that.
No. The semantic distinction between power and government. Clearly, if Christians have governmental authority, they have power. Like we're talking about the same thing. We're not talking past each other here. So the thing is, very quickly, because I only have so much time, if it is the case that Christians shouldn't be in government, but if Christians were,
That's not my claim.
Your claim isn't that okay, Christianity shouldn't be in government.
Yes.
Okay. So wait a second. So if Christians are in government, Christianity is not in government?
I address this earlier because I said if a Christian serves in government and their beliefs overlap with the current structure of the Constitution or whatever, then there's no problem with that, because the Establishment Clause doesn't say we will ban, or we're going to do the opposite of all religions. Because
okay, that would help me. Okay, bro. So anytime Christians then who utilize their normative ethical authority for things like abortion in government, that's wrong. They shouldn't do that.
If they're imposing their specific religious beliefs on other people, then that's a violation of, I think that creates dysfunctional governments. That's a violation of the First Amendment. Even if you argue that we could just get rid of the First Amendment, I think history shows us that creates dysfunctional governments.
Yeah. Hang on. No. This doesn't make, bro, you got to back way. Okay, we got to back way up.
Real fast, just under 10 minutes remaining. I did add about a minute and a half for clarifications.
Appreciate it. Okay, so just very quickly, Mr. Peterson, if the Supreme Court justices are Catholic, and a lot of them are now, and their interpretation, they're interpreting the law, right? They're also using, part of their interpretation is going to be their normative ethical framework, because that's how interpretation works. Mm-hmm. If they're using their Christian normative ethical framework, do you actually have a problem with that?
So if I had a problem with that would mean that I would just have to ban Christianity, but that doesn't actually make any sense. A Christian, we went over this earlier, anybody can believe whatever a Christian believes at the same time. So we can't just ban them from serving in government. That just wouldn't make any sense.
Then your whole proposition's destroyed. If the idea is Christianity shouldn't be in government, but Christians can go in and rule based on their normative ethics, then you don't have a claim. Your claim's destroyed. Listen, I'm just going to, I'll give it to you in premises. I'm going to give it to you in premises so that you understand, right? Christians should be allowed in government. True or false?
True.
Christians in government should be allowed to reference their normative framework when making decisions in a governmental role. True or false?
Not exactly true.
What does that mean?
Because they can believe in things that are in congruence with the Constitution and with everybody else in general, and that can happen to be something Christians believe in. They're not the only ones that believe in the golden rule.
But they can amend the Constitution. They can just amend the Constitution. And then if they do amend the Constitution, they can, any of their normative framework, they followed your entire law.
Yeah.
Exactly. Right?
Yep.
So then why shouldn't they be allowed to do that?
First of all, because as I've said a whole bunch of times, I think it creates dysfunctional governments, but this would also lead to potentially Andrew Wilson being subject to whatever the Pope says, because maybe that's the Christian framework we end up with, but you reject that. So according to Andrew Wilson doesn't want this to happen.
What are you talking? What kind of weird straw man nonsense is this? According to Andrew Wilson, he doesn't want the Pope. And what the fuck are you talking? We're talking about you and your view, not Andrew Wilson's. You had a chance to grill Andrew Wilson's view. Your view, sir, is that it's perfectly acceptable for Christians to change the Constitution if they are elected by their constituency. Yes or no?
Yeah.
Okay. So then if Christians who are elected by their constituency change the Constitution in order to allow Christian stuff, whatever you think that is, how can you possibly say that they shouldn't be able to do that when this is the proposition itself, that they shouldn't be in government, yet they should be allowed to go in and change every facet of government? That, sir, is its proposition and its negation, an actual contradiction.
Because it creates dysfunctional governments. And the other thing is, like, it's a totally functional government, dude. Totally functional. What do you mean? It's following your rules. Christians go in, they change it via an amendment, and then they rule based on the changed amendments, which is exactly what you claim we should be doing. It's like calling fascism a functional government. It
was a functional government.
That doesn't mean that I accept it or that I think it's good.
But your whole claim here is like, it's dysfunctional to not allow Christians to serve in government. It's actually, it's dysfunctional to not allow Christians to serve in government. If Christians go into the government and serve and then amend the Constitution, which they're allowed to do because they're in government, and then change it to make a bunch of whatever Christian stuff legal that you don't like, right? They're literally following your very process. So your proposition is Christianity shouldn't be in government, but its negation is, yes, Christians should be in government and should be allowed to change the amendments in government so that, yes, they should be allowed to do this. Should be allowed to change the amendments in government. No, Christians shouldn't be allowed to change amendments in government if they're elected.
No, I'm just disagreeing with. I know where this is going already. That's where I'm.
It's your proposition and its negation, and I'll just give it to you again. And I really do need a response to this. The proposition is Christianity shouldn't be in government. Its negation is, okay, Christians should be allowed in government, and they should be allowed to change anything they want in government as long as they're following the rules that are there. And then when they change the rules, which is completely fine, right, for Christian-y stuff, you don't have a problem with that because that's the form of government.
I do have a problem with that because...
What's the problem?
Just because it can be done, like we have open elections, so it's theoretically possible that a Nazi could be elected president. That doesn't mean that I have to accept that should happen or that it's good that it would happen.
No.
The other thing with this...
Wait, are you saying Nazis shouldn't be allowed in government?
Technically, I don't think that is illegal or anything.
Yeah, right. So if they shouldn't, so you're saying Nazis should be allowed in government. So if Nazis are allowed in government and then they change the government,
be banned. That doesn't mean I think that they should be. It's like free speech.
I'm not asking if you think Nazis. I didn't ask if Nazis should be allowed in government. I asked you I asked you this question specifically. Should Nazis be allowed to be in government? Allowed.
So this is, I'm not trying to give you a Weasley answer, but it's like free speech. I don't think it's good. I don't like it when the government says these are the things you should and shouldn't say, but that doesn't mean that I find it.
Should Nazis be allowed to serve in government? Yes or no?
No, but I don't think that it should be illegal for a Nazi to be in the government. That's the difference.
So they should be allowed to serve in government.
If you frame it that way,
one more time, should Nazis be allowed to serve in government? Yes or no?
In that framing, then
okay. So real quick, I'm going to ask you again. I need it specifically answered. Should Nazis be allowed to serve in government? Yes or no?
It shouldn't be illegal. So yes,
yes. Okay,
yeah, but
so hang on. I just want to make sure. No. I'm not trying to. Bro, I'm not trying to clip it. I'm just trying to show you that if it's the case, then that Nazis who should be allowed to be in government go into the government and then change all the shit in the government to make it all Nazified, they should be allowed to do that, right? Because they're following the process of government, right?
Again, this is odd because it's like can versus should.
No, should.
I think
should.
It would be wrong.
No, stop.
We know fascism isn't a functional kind of government.
Listen to me. If you say Nazis should be allowed in government, then they should be allowed to do their job in government, right?
If they should be, then they should. Again, that doesn't mean that I accept whatever amendments they would do.
And answer my question. I'm not asking you for qualifiers. I'm not interested. I just want you to actually answer the questions I ask. Should Nazis, if they're in government, do their job? Should they do their job that they were put there to do? So if the constituency of a bunch of Nazis puts Nazis in the government to do the job of changing the amendments to make it more Nazi-ish, they should do that, right?
No.
Why not? I don't understand. I honestly don't get this now. Now I'm
should amend an amendment.
So let me get this right. I'm not asking for the normative ought of whether or not you think the amendment's good or bad. That's not. I don't care if you think the amendment good or amendment bad. Only if you think that Nazis should be allowed to change the amendments to make shit more Nazi. Should they be allowed to do that? So in other words,
not if you want a functional government.
If 2/3 of the states elected Nazis and they went to Capitol Hill, okay, and they said, hey, we want a new amendment that says there's going to be a new Third Reich, right? Somewhere. I don't know how they phrase it. Okay. They should be allowed to follow the process of government. Not is the amendment good or bad? I'm not asking that should claim. Only should they be allowed to do that based on the prescription of the government that you advocate for.
I guess technically, yes. That doesn't mean
Yes.
it has my
Okay.
endorsement or
Then
that I think it would be functional.
perfect. I'm not saying you endorse it, bro.
because-
Bro.
Yeah, I know.
I'm not saying you endorse it.
There's
Yeah,
a
I know.
minute and
So
a half
often.
remaining.
Okay, very quickly. Then this same logic would apply to Christianity. Should Christians be allowed to serve in government? Yes. Should, if they're there, should they do their job based on what their constituency wants? Yes. And if they follow all of the laws in order to make Christian stuff, they should be allowed to do that. Also, yes. The proposition is now negated. This is a performative contradiction you've been caught in, because when you say Christianity shouldn't be in government, however, Christians should be allowed to change government to make it into Christianity, you negated your own proposition.
I just don't agree on that at all.
Oh, okay. Well, I mean, logic
Because
disagrees
the
with you.
reasons that I stated Christianity shouldn't be in government are because that would make it could potentially, or could, whatever, it doesn't matter, lead to a more dysfunctional government, one that disenfranchises people.
Let me ask you one last question. Just one last question, very quickly. Should pedophiles be allowed in government?
I think most of them are, but
should they be allowed in government?
No, I don't think so. I think there are certain things, because that's a felony, I believe. So no, I don't think felons should.
They didn't get a felony. No. They did it when they were like, I don't know, just under the legal age or something, like 2 days before the legal age, right? And it wasn't a felony for whatever reason, right? They got away with a misdemeanor. Should they be allowed to serve in government?
Are you talking about a pedophile or somebody who got a misdemeanor?
Yeah, pedophile. Just let him answer this last question like I did him the service of doing. Should pedophiles who are only convicted of misdemeanors be allowed to serve in government? In fact, here's an easy one. Should pedophiles who just say that they're attracted to children but have never actually acted on it, should those pedophiles be allowed in government?
Sounds like a bad idea.
So no, they shouldn't be?
I don't think so.
No. Okay. So then we'll just follow the law when you want to follow the law and then not follow it when you don't want to follow it. All right. Fair enough. All right.
You didn't ask me if... Okay, whatever.
Okay. So...
Yeah, I did. I asked if they should be allowed to be in government. Should they be allowed to be in government? You can reframe the answer. Should pedophiles be allowed to be in government?
No.
No. Okay. Well, then you're just only applying the law when you choose to apply the law. Thank you. Yeah. So I'm ready. So just very quickly to go over the closing here. We caught Mr. Peterson in a contradiction. So the proposition was Christianity shouldn't be in government. But we figure out very quickly that not only are Christians should be allowed to serve in government, but they should be allowed to follow the processes of government in order to change government to make it all Christian if they want to. They should be allowed to do that. So him saying Christianity shouldn't be allowed in government is actually negated. His own proposition gets negated by him the second he tells you that within the framework of this government, he has no problem with Christians making it a Christian government. That negates the proposition of shouldn't be able to. It's like it's absurd. It's like it's the silliest thing I've ever seen in my life. Not only that, there was a whole bunch of things that we touched on. Like, for instance, we went over the fact that, hey, there's other nations which have state churches. He says, well, religiosity leads to dysfunction. Well, I guess the happiest nation, Finland, then must be real dysfunctionally happy, right? Must be really dysfunctionally happy since they have state churches. And now to kind of give some leeway and credit to him, it does remind me of a great joke, which is, you know why it's the happiest country is because all the sad people are already off themselves because it's so cold and dark. But I just thought that was a, kind of a funny observation. But back to this, there was a ton of things. We got into the normative framework of ethics, which he brought up. I didn't bring it up. I was keeping it on topic. I don't even think he understands what Christian ethics are, or that it's not a no true Scotsman fallacy at all. If you say, oh, those people violated this ethical purview, and here's why, based on A, B, and C, you saying that this person who self-IDs as the thing violates the actual values of the thing is not a no true Scotsman fallacy. It's totally absurd. If that was the case, then anytime a secularist ever did anything wrong, we just say, well, look at what secularists do, right? It wouldn't make any sense at all. There would have to be, in utilitarian ethics, for instance, it would have to be, well, there's X amount of negative utils, and I believe in that, but I'm causing negative utils. Another person would easily point to that and say, well, then you're violating utilitarian ethics. It wouldn't be that, well, there's no true utilitarian, right? That wouldn't make any sense. It's not a no true Scotsman fallacy. He doesn't know what he's talking about. There was a whole bunch of times, in fact, like you should stick with science, man. Maybe philosophy is not your jam, but ultimately on this, yeah, you got wrecked pretty bad. You did. I mean, you did. You got wrecked pretty bad on this one, man.
Are you ceding the rest of your
And
time?
nope. I'm going to finish up with this. Remember, he also said Nazis should be allowed in government. Pedophiles should be allowed in government. All these people should be allowed in government, right? Christians should be allowed in government. And if any of these people make prescriptions to make the entire country more Nazi or more Christian or anything like it, it's totally fine with him. But for some reason, the government shouldn't be more blank, even though all of his prescriptions say it's perfectly acceptable for you to go in and change the country to be blank. It just makes no sense. It's crazy. Anyway, with that, I'll cede my time.
Then Grandpa Fiddlebone. Is this for Andrew?
Hello. Yes, this is for Andrew. Andrew, do you feel bad for your opponent after nights like this?
Nope, they deserve it.
All right. Good, guys.
Have a good night, man.
Oh no, what's wrong, bro? Did you throw it with streamer get wrecked? Are you seeking something aboard to float on from the wreck? From the wreck. It's a cope. It's a cope. You already lined up in my scope. What happened, little Baba? Are you in pain from this teething? Did your boy get smashed, and that's why you're coping and seething? See the cope and seething, cope and seething. Yeah. Your boy got wrecked, it is no wonder you feel mad. The fury in your face makes me want to laugh. I thought I told you to stop spurging. For every fallacy you use, I will forgive because you know, but you know not. You little copers have no hope, God has our back and no we won't stop. Cope and see. Oh, cope and see. Oh, hey, gotta get your cope on. Echo chamber rattle all night long. Amen. Oh, man. For every fallacy you use, I will forgive because you know not you know lot. Little copers have no hope, God has our back, you know we won't stop. Cope and see. Oh, cope and see. Oh, hey, gotta get your cope on. Echo chamber battle all night long. Amen. Gotta get your cope on.